Han.
Luke, together again, huh?
Wouldn't miss it.
How are we doing?
Same as usual.
That bad, huh?
Welcome everybody again to another episode of My Name is Robert. And
that's the name of the show now. My name is Robert.
Apparently it's been changed. Science Fiction Remnant out. My name is Robert.
No longer. You can find it in all your podcast providers.
Wow, talk about self-branding. Break your arm, pat yourself on the back there, Robert.
Welcome to
Oh God,
and
in this episode, my name is Robert.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This is going to be one of those. So, with me, as always, in Science Fiction Remnant, we have our trusted mad scientist. Hello, Ray.
G'day from Australia, Robert. Or should I call you Science Fiction Remnant from now on?
Yes.
And we have Captain Chaos. Gio. Hello, Gio.
Hey, how you guys doing? It's gonna be a fun episode today. Are you guys all ready?
It already started. And this episode, we are talking about the third movie on our trying to fix Star Wars in our show, right? Because we haven't done much of it, Star Wars. So I think for this movie, it was only fair to bring a portion of this is Sci-Fi Council. And by the way, if you don't know what that is, reach out to me on Twitter. If you like sci-fi, I'll let you in. So we have, you've probably seen Ro before on our show. Ro from Scarif. Hello, Ro. How you doing?
How is everybody doing? A heartfelt hello from the Windy City here in Chicago. Hope everybody is doing well. Can't wait to start talking about. What are we talking about? What's the name of the show? My name is Robert.
Yes.
Can't wait to talk about you, Robert.
Yep.
And Ro, for all of those listeners who are listening to this episode first and don't know where you're from, can you tell them where you're from, what your show is about, and where they can find it?
Sure. I run a show called the Scarif Scuttlebutt Podcast, part of the Red 5 Network. Check out the rest of the Red 5 Network family. The Scarif Scuttlebutt Podcast, we started kind of as a heavily Star Wars podcast, but we realized that our geekiness kind of spreads throughout all the nerd properties. So comic books, movies, sci-fi, fantasy, whatever. We do a little bit of everything, but as you can see from my background, it's it's mostly Star Wars, but we love to kind of share in all the nerd the nerd IPs. So we talk about a little bit about everything. So we're just having fun.
The nerdosphere.
The nerdosphere, making our way through the galaxy.
Awesome. And if you have not listened to the pod, I suggest you can pause us right now and you can go ahead and download and then come back to us. We'll be waiting. And also, we have another member from This is Sci-Fi Console. We have the crew from Across the Star. Hello, Brendan. Hello, Drew.
What's up?
How you guys doing?
Hello there.
Good.
Awesome.
Hello there.
So can you tell the audience what is your show about and where they can find it?
Go for it, Drew.
No, you do that on our show, so you do it.
Okay. So our show is a chronological journey through everything Star Wars. And that means all the lovely shows. Right now we're on Clone Wars. And we watch them, so you don't have to. but you can watch them too. And then we sit there and we talk about them, give our opinions, thoughts, reflections, nitpicks, likes, dislikes, all that stuff. And we have guests come in with us every week, and yeah, it's a good time. And you can find us just about any podcasting platform that you are listening to this on right now. You can also find us on Twitter at Across Stars Pod, and we're on YouTube also, Across the Stars Podcast, where we do Let's Play of Star Wars video games. Which right now I'm going through Jedi Fallen Order in anticipation of Jedi Survivor next month.
Nice. So again, this is another great pod. We actually appeared and for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So go ahead and download, listen, and we'll be waiting. You can use that trusted pause button. So should we go in for the first segment?
Let's do it.
We are Science Fiction Redneck.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is SciFi.
And on this section, we basically just highlight the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag. This is actually our attempt to unite the sci-fi community under one, just under one umbrella, which is the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag. So if you are a fan or a creator of sci-fi, you have things to post that you love, or if you want to just follow what other people love within the sci-fi community, I invite you to post and follow the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi. And we also have the This Is Sci-Fi chat. If you want to take it either further, just reach out to me if you're interested, and I can let you in. But if you want to
only $79.99 a month.
There you go.
Wait, I thought that was Geo's OnlyFans price.
Oh, that was
man. I'm a little bit more upscale.
Right.
But trust me, it's worth it.
Yeah, and we also have the Discord. So if you want to join in and talk to us, we occasionally do the watch parties. We did one watch party prior to this recording, and it was a lot of fun, to do that. So just engage with us. If you like a particular IP or a property and you want, us to learn about, just post it in there. I really enjoyed all the new discovery that is happening there. Plus, I don't know if you know, but I usually try to keep secret what episode is going to come next on our show. I usually give out hints under the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi, as well as the day prior with our famous quote. So if you can guess the quote, then you'll guess what episode is coming next. So,
hence, Robert is terrible keeping secrets.
And there have been hints. Like, for example, if you hear our previous episode of Buck Rogers, Ro has actually posted on the same day on the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag about our recording for Buck Rogers. So yeah, it pays to follow the hashtag.
It certainly does.
So I want to go around the room and just doesn't have to be anything elaborated. Just want to get your consensus, your personal experience for this week on the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi. And anyone can go. Ray, Leo, or our guest.
Well, I have a lot of fun this week with my post, which I copied from you, Robert, with the Men in Black filter. And I used it with that, and I had a lot of engagement with it. It was fun as hell. That was a fun filter, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess someone said, was it you, Ro? I forgot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that explains everything.
Yeah, that explains a lot. I said, do you think? And I posted mine. Oh wow, that was fun. So I don't know, Drew or Brandon. I don't know if you follow the hashtag or if you go through it.
Yes. Somebody, I think it might have been you, posted that they're going to have an episode or going to that they already did it or what about the movie Contact. And I remember loving that movie as a kid. So it was your episode, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, we did an episode on it on season 1.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to it, but I went ahead and ordered the movie, the Blu-ray, so I can have it delivered to the house and watch it one day this week.
It's such a
I'd
great
totally
movie.
forgotten about it, but I remember loving it for some reason. Let's see if it holds up.
Well, I read the book, and it's one of those examples of a movie that is completely different from what it shows in the book, yet still as good. So it's a great movie. If you guys have not listened, for all of you out there who have not listened to our season 2, go ahead and go through our back catalog for Contact and reach out and let's start a conversation. Let's see what are your thoughts, if you like the movie, what did you like about the movie. Awesome. So should we move on to the next segment?
That's nicer than you just pushing me out of it. You go, Ro.
I had one thing to say about this is sci-fi hashtag. So we recorded. I know you want to keep it secret, but we recorded something special that I don't think you released yet. But we talked about Buck Rogers, and I got really nostalgic. So I looked up some artwork for Buck Rogers. I found an old concept picture, artwork from Boris Vallejo, and it's he's one of my favorite artists. But I posted that, and I just asked the question: does anybody remember this show? And over the weekend, that post has gone, at warp 9, and as of now, it's gotten over 40,000 views. And people have been commenting. I love the show. Hashtag BDBDBD. I mean, people are talking about how they, everybody fell in love with Aaron Gray and Buck Rogers. So it's there are a few people that don't remember the show, but for the most part, I think that post kind of took off because of nostalgia. I think a lot of people really gravitated to just making a comment about how much they loved that show, how much they remember it, back in the day. And I think it inspired me to I think I'm gonna take one of our patrons and actually do a deep dive on our show in the next coming weeks, because it was, I'm watching it on Tubi. And again, just all the comments, like I said, it just kept on growing. We're at 41,000 views now, just that post, and people are still commenting on it. And it's really great how I guess that era in television science fiction, back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. Has really, triggered a lot of people to really remember that show. Can't wait to hear our discussion on it. But it's I had a lot of fun, just talking about it, and then obviously answering people's comments on my post. It was really great.
So, Roy, what you're saying is that there's 41,000 people in the plus column, and then there's Captain Chaos in the minus column.
Sure.
But I would have to add to what Rose said. That's the perfect example of the power of the hashtag. This is sci-fi, because you have all the people, they're uniting on there's something that they love, right? That the amount of numbers that you have mentioned for that post shows that. But then you have the new people. You have the people, because remember, this show hasn't had a revival in any sense since it was aired. So you have people now that would follow that, and they're like, okay, what is this? This has a lot of views. A lot of people are loving this. Let's go ahead and look at that. Granted, I know that the show is not for everyone, right? As you know, many people will still not. I'm still having that discussion with Galactica, the 78 versus the 2000. I understand it's not for everyone, but there will be people that would be curious about this, and they will go and open up Tubi and watch the first episode, and they're like, oh my God, they discover a new thing that they never seen that they might fall in love with. And that's the whole idea of what I'm looking for in that hashtag. It's just to unite everybody. You have something you love. I have something you love. Let's share it. Let's all enjoy each other's loves. Because yeah, like Gio had a perfect example. Gio, you posted something that kind of took off. Was it Stream Boy? Oh,
Steam Boy, yeah, and Memories from same director and creator, both of them. They were the creators of Akira, which is a very, very good classic.
Exactly.
Tetsuo!
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Akira is like one of my favorites of all times, man. I think that Akira is the real birth of what cyberpunk has become today.
Neuromancer.
Yep.
Neuromancer. If you know, you know.
Yep.
Okay. So, I guess we can move on to the next segment.
Shout out.
See, you pushed me into it, Robert. You always do. But this is my space.
At least I gave you the warning this time.
Yeah. Instead of playing it 3 times on my body. Well, for this segment, we're gonna give a thank you to one of the people that made it to our inner circle. They exist, and being most engaged on our communications in Twitter, posting, retweeting. We appreciate all the love. I want to start with Antiporo, Kelly Szentgyorgyi. Thank you for always being part of the group and always being engaging. We always enjoy having that engagement with you, conversations. Keep on the good questions and topics. We love your insights on everything that you bring onto the table. Cinema Rico, The Burn.
Our episode is out.
We gotta get another show with him, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he told us. I think that he told us that he wants to do another one with us.
He wants to do 2049.
Yep.
Sorry, Ray.
That's Ray's favorite. Well, we know something for sure. Ray loves Ryan Gosling too much to watch him die.
I got no problem with the actor. It was the script that sucked.
Next, Dex Lower. Yeah.
Lower Dex.
Also, my GhostWorld, Steve Horizon. Always also great to have him. I love having this is not only a Twitter mention, but also a Discord mention, because he's always also active with us on Discord, where we're trying to get most of our audience to move up there to participate. It's fun and it's more underground. Somebody very, very awesome, Madison on the air. Everybody should go and check her out, man. For sure. You're missing out if you're not checking her out, man. Human-B-Gon. One of the best episodes we had of this season, huh? Where you guys saw me evolving into Captain Enigma.
This is the episode where Captain Chaos shocked everybody.
It's in there, man. I just don't know how to bring it out of me. Rosalita 9899. Also, love always her support, and yeah. Loves always like her support. She's always giving us comments and retweeting, showing the love. Keep it going. We appreciate it, and we hope to keep doing good content for you. Following films,
Chris, we need to have you back.
Yeah, we need to. We might go and kidnap him. One of my favorites has a special place on my heart. I always love picking on her. Sayyadina Heretical Sayyadina.
Awesome.
We're gonna make a the benches for today. Not to forget that we are actually, and we want to let everybody know, we're part of the Blind Knowledge Network. So go and check them out. Blindknowledge.com. They have a great variety of content creators. You can certainly find something that you enjoy. I know you enjoy us too, but you probably ain't going to find other things that you enjoy on different aspects of content creation there. So go and check them out. They are very fun to interact with. Joy is always there in the server too. Go and have a check on them. You can go on their website, or you can go. They have a Discord channel too, and once in a while too, I see that Joe goes into his Twitch channel to live too, and they're in most social medias. So go and check them out for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so
And
if you go ahead.
no, I mean I didn't put this one, but I mean I always kind of like just put her in there. Nikki, where are you, my love?
Nikki.
So everybody go and check Dear Nikki in Twitter. She's fantastic. I always gotta mention her, man.
And you gotta mention that you don't want to download the podcast unless you are having headphones.
Yes, it's not safe for work, and I mean if you're plus 18 plus, please.
18 plus, please. Awesome. Okay, so if you love what we do, help us out. Buy us a coffee. And also, we're going to start something new, and I want you guys to let us know, right? So we are going to put, going forward from this episode on, our, pre-show on our Patreon channel. So if you become a Patreon, you could see those pre-shows, and you could actually learn what the episode is going to be about first than anybody else. So I just put the link in there. So hope to see you.
And you also
there.
get a sample of Onigians in the pre-show.
Yes, and you get to see Captain Chaos Uncensored.
Captain Chaos After Dark.
And if you're gonna buy us a coffee, remember, at least for me, almond milk. Don't put creamer on mine, and no sugar.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna go into the next segment.
The Outer Remnant.
Okay, so this is the part of the episode where if you want to hear more of any of us here in this episode, we kind of give you an idea where to go that is not our own shows. So I guess I default to Ray for now. And
you always do that.
Where have you been, Ray?
Where have I been? Well, this weekend just passed. I wasn't dying of food poisoning for a change, so I actually managed to host an episode of Radio Chaos. Episode 154, what manga story arc should be included in the Alita sequel? So basically, we were talking about the different story arcs, following on from what they included in the first Alita Battle Angel movie, and what ones we thought would be best and how they should be arranged. It was a good little discussion. We all enjoyed it. We also talked about what possible things they could include that wasn't involved in the source material from the first movie going forward. So it was a good discussion. I quite enjoyed it.
Awesome. I want to mention that, you know, we probably mentioned this a couple of times, but our episode on Cinema Recall about existence, if you want to see us try to talk or minimize our talk to about an hour about a show that we have marked as a blacklist because we have a lot to say, then go ahead and download Cinema Recall, our episode on existence, and you get to see us talk about that movie and try to limit ourselves in what we have to say. Okay, so Ro, do you you have a shout out for another show where they can hear your voice that is not your own show?
Yeah, absolutely. So I helped a friend start a podcast, and my friend Nick, he's a good big supporter of a lot of the shows on the Red 5 network.
Is it called I Am Robert?
No, it's not actually. So he started a podcast where he talks about certain types of movies, but he's called Nickflix Podcast, like Netflix, except Nickflix. So check him out. He is very early on in his podcasting career, but really great guy. And I think I was on his show talking about some of our favorite horror movies. We talked about Freddy Krueger and Mike Myers, the killer, not the actor, and a lot of other fun stuff like that. So yeah, check him out, Nick Flicks.
Awesome. And Brandon and Drew, if you have any, you can point it out.
Yeah, I'm just on the Across the Stars podcast where Drew and I go through everything Star Wars, and on the YouTube channel too, doing playthroughs and stuff. I've abandoned the solo career for lieu of the dad career.
Awesome.
Well, I think it's funny you mentioned Cinema Recall. He was our guest last night, and we spent probably a good 20 minutes recasting Pulp Fiction with Star Wars characters.
Nice.
That got interesting.
Nice. I was watching that movie this week.
Nice.
My favorite casting was still replacing Samuel L. Jackson with Samuel L. Jackson.
That was divine intervention.
All you need to do is add a purple lightsaber and you're good to go.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh yeah. But I have another podcast where me and my other co-host go back and review professional wrestling from 25 years ago. It's called the Attitude Era Wrestling Review Podcast. But if you want to listen to that, we're available on any platform, and we're on Twitter at AEWRPod.
Awesome. Okay, so are we all ready to talk about Robert?
I don't want to talk about Robert.
I'm dying to actually talk about you, man.
Shouldn't that be on Only Roberts?
No, I think it's Rubber Hub.
Rubber Hub.
Right.
No, Rubber Tube.
Oh,
Rubber hamster.
Rubber hamster. What are you doing to that hamster, Robert?
I know.
2 Roberts, 1 cup.
Oh.
So, this is the part of the show where I said, if you're not watching the YouTube video, you should, because I'm not going to mention what we just showed on the on video, but wait about a month, go to our YouTube channel and watch this video. So we're talking about Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
Crimson.
Okay. There's a disembodied voice.
Somebody's saber forge.
I put mine away.
Yeah. I thought of bringing mine out. Was my thought power so powerful that it played the saber forge intro?
Yeah, that or mine spazzing out across the room. I don't know.
The force is strong with you.
Yes. Happy 30th anniversary, or what is it? 30th anniversary of Return of the Jedi this year.
Yes.
Oh wow,
that's crazy.
That is insane. So we're talking about.
Is that 40th?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I thought it was older than that. 1983. Yeah, so yeah.
40. Yeah.
40.
Yeah, we're turning 40 this year.
It's crazy.
Who's we?
Me in this movie.
What do you mean, you people?
Young whippersnappers.
To be fair, you look a lot younger than me.
So
it's a mileage thing.
Should I dare to ask? Ray, do you have the plot?
I do. I have the plot. It's true. There is
the force of the noodles.
Remember,
the Jedi returns.
Remember, you got to say spoilers because.
Spoilers.
Yes. This movie came out in 1983, so you have to say spoilers.
I'm scared about how many people are actually listening to this, and the movie's older than they are, and yet we're worried about spoilers.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
So the theatrical release date of this movie, yes, they had cinemas back in 1983, was May 25th, which is, it's not May the 4th, but it's pretty damn close. Runtime's 132 minutes. Budget was around 42.7 million, which is cheap as these days for a movie with special effects in it. And the box office was 475.1 million. So it did pretty good, on multiples of the budget. It made bank. So quite stunned that they stopped there for about, 12 years or something? Ridiculous. They should have just kept rolling them out. They would have made heaps of money, because I remember, rocking up to this at the cinema and being so excited. It was like, finally, we're going to find out what happened. I mean, Empire Strikes Back was an amazing movie, but it ended on a downer. And it's like, what happened to Han? What the hell? We got to find out what's happened with the dude. So,
my only question about the end of Return of the Jedi is I'm really wondering why Lando was wearing Han's clothes. A little fishy there. Something's going on.
Well, obviously he had to evacuate Brisbane so quickly that he didn't have a chance to pack. So he had to wear something.
That's what happens.
I'll buy that.
Like, he almost get caught with Princess Leia, so he just picked the first thing he saw, and it was Princess Leia's boys' clothes.
And if you remember, Han actually won the Millennium Falcon in a high-stakes card game from Lando. Right. So maybe they were Lando's clothes to begin with, and Han was just wearing them.
That's true.
Yeah. Good point.
You got a point there.
So anyway, a year after Han Solo's capture, C-3PO and R2-D2 are sent to crime lord Jabba the Hutt's palace on Tatooine in a trade bargain made by Luke Skywalker to rescue Han, who is still frozen in carbonite. Disguised as the bounty hunter Bosch, Princess Leia infiltrates the palace under the pretense of collecting the bounty on Chewbacca and unfreezes Han, but is caught and enslaved. Enslaved Princess Leia. I had that poster on my wall when I was a teenager.
Everybody wants to be enslaved by that.
Luke soon arrives to bargain for his friend's release, but Jabba drops him through a trapdoor to be eaten by a rancor. After Luke kills it, it's just like, yeah, I'll kill it. Jabba sentences him, Han, and Chewbacca to death by being fed to the Sarlacc, a deadly beast entombed in the desert floor that digests prey over the course of a millennium. Falcon. Having hidden his new lightsaber inside R2-D2, Luke frees himself and his friends, and they battle Jabba's men aboard the crime lord's sail barge. During the chaos, Boba Fett falls into the Sarlacc after Han inadvertently damages his jetpack, and Leia strangles Jabba to death with her chains. Well, there's a kink in her heart. The group destroys Jabba's sail barge and they escape. As the others rendezvous with the Rebel Alliance, Luke returns to Dagobah to complete Jedi training with Yoda, whom he discovers is dying. Yoda confirms that Darth Vader, once Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker, is Luke's father, and reveals that there is another Skywalker before vanishing and becoming one with the Force. Obi-Wan Kenobi's Force spirit then tells Luke about his twin sister Leia and that he must face Vader again to finish his training and defeat the Empire. The Alliance learns that the Empire has been constructing a second Death Star under the supervision of the Emperor. As the station is protected by an energy shield, Han leads a strike team which includes Luke, Leia, and Chewbacca. They don't mention it here, but it also includes R2-D2 and C-3PO. To destroy the shield generator on the forest moon of Endor. Doing so will allow the Rebel fleet to destroy the Death Star. The team uses a stolen Imperial shuttle and arrives undetected, yet not exactly. Darth Vader knew they were there. And encounters a tribe of Ewoks, gaining their trust after initial conflict. Later, Luke tells Leia that she is his sister, Vader is their father, and their family is the most fucked up one in the galaxy. And that he must confront Vader. Surrendering to Imperial troops, he is brought before Vader and fails to convince him to reject the dark side of the Force. Vader brings Luke to the Emperor, who intends to turn him to the dark side, and reveals that his friends and the Rebel fleet are headed into a trap. It's a trap. He tempts Luke to give in to his anger. Luke attempts to attack him, but Vader intervenes and the two engage in a lightsaber duel. Vader senses that Luke has a sister and threatens to turn her to the dark side if Luke will not. In retaliation, Luke loses his shit and defeats Vader, severing his prosthetic hand. The Emperor orders Luke to take Vader's place, but Luke refuses, declaring himself to be a Jedi, like his father before him. Enraged, the Emperor begins torturing Luke to death with Force lightning. Unwilling to let his son die, Vader betrays the Emperor by throwing him down the reactor shaft to his death. Or so we all thought back in 1983.
He got better.
Yeah, that's a pretty big thing to get better from, dude.
It happens a lot, though.
In movies, yeah. But he is mortally electrocuted in the process. This is Darth Vader. At his redeemed father's last request, Luke removes Anakin's mask, and after a brief talk, he dies peacefully in Luke's arms. After the strike team destroys the shield generator, Lando leads Rebel fighters into the Death Star's core. While the Rebel fleet destroys the Imperial command ships, Lando and an X-Wing piloted by Wedge Antilles destroys the Death Star's main reactor and escape before the station explodes. Meanwhile, Luke escapes in a shuttle. On Endor, Leia reveals to Han that Luke is her brother. Luke burns Vader's armor on a pyre and reunites with his friends. As the rebels celebrate their victory, Luke notices the Force spirits of Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin watching nearby. And then we get to wait like 30 years.
30 years later.
I'm gonna make a Darth Vader. I'm gonna make a Darth Vader impression now.
How did you screw all that up off screen? Oh, it was easy.
I am not your daddy.
Thank God for that.
Oh, thank you.
So you can see from the plot, this is one of the greater sort of sci-fi wrap-ups of a trilogy in cinematic sci-fi history, but it wasn't perfect. There was a few flaws in the narrative. I'm sure we'll cover those. For sure.
I want to know who got Vader's helmet off the burn pile.
Kylo.
Who had the balls? Who had the balls to grab the helmet off of Darth Vader's corpse?
Right.
After the fire.
JJ
Still,
Abrams.
Darth Vader's corpse? I wouldn't touch that.
Yeah.
Maybe Leia picked it up as a memento because she never really knew her father, except that one time at the very start of the.
The time that she was tortured near death by her dad.
Yeah, yeah, and basically spat in his face a few times because she hated his guts.
Lord Vader, I could smell you on the ship.
Yeah. Should have
known
that
was
leash.
Tarkin. She said she could smell, wasn't it? Not Vader.
Yeah.
Well, this is really interesting for me because the movies are far apart enough that we have a different audience that responds differently to each of the movies. And let me explain. This movie came out in 1983. So I was 13 when this movie came out. What have been your, I guess let me start with this. Like, how old were you when you saw this movie? And what was the first experience that you can recall from that? I mean, obviously, I was a lot more. I was younger when I saw the other movies, so there is less that I remember from the others that I do remember from here, except for how impressive the movies are. And you probably heard this from me on our previous episode on the other two movies that we did for Star Wars, but this one I remember a lot more. And I'm just kind of curious, and I guess we can go around. We can start with Ray and see how old were you, and what was your impression on watching this movie for the first time?
Robert, I'm a year older than you are, so it's pretty obvious. Just +1.
There you go.
But yeah, oh, look, I remember rocking up to this movie at the cinema, and I was like, yes, finally. 6 years ago, I didn't actually get to go to the cinema to see Star Wars because I was a bit young. But, by the time Rog came out, I'd seen Empire in the cinema, and I've seen Rog in the cinema, and I was like, oh, we finally find out what happened to Han Solo, and get a wrap up and what's happened with the whole thing. And it was sort of bittersweet too, because kind of once you walked out of the cinema, that was it. Like, will there ever be any more Star Wars? It's just like there's a trilogy, and now that's that. And they were kicking off the extended universe with all the novels and everything. And I remember reading the Thrawn novels and all those other novels way back when, which didn't stick to me as much as the Thrawn ones because they were excellent. But it was bittersweet because you found out what happened in the end, but then it was over. And it was sort of like, well, shouldn't there be some more movies? Like, couldn't you keep going? Surely, you've built up this fantastic cast and this great story and everybody's invested. Make some more fucking movies, you idiots. And they didn't. They went back and made prequels and let everybody get old and fat. So, yeah, kind of ruined that. But I thought they should have done more. I really thought they were on a cash cow. And they should have been milking, like, every couple of years, another Star Wars movie. That's right.
Gio, should I dare ask, how old were you?
Non-applicable.
Non-applicable. Okay. So then I default to... How old were you when you saw...
No, not really. I was swimming on a microscopical scale.
He was testicle bound.
So, Gio, how old were you the first time you saw this movie, and what was your impression in the movie?
This movie, I watched it with you the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It was with you my first time.
Just the other day.
No, it's been like what, Robert? Maybe like 4 or 5 years. No, like 1 or 2 years. It's been.
Yeah,
we watched
yeah,
like all the other movies, the older movies, because I watched the Phantom of Menace, and then and then I watched all the other ones up to 3. But I never watched episode 4 and all the older ones.
So what was your impression when you watched this movie for the first time that you can recall?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I watched, and I actually, in my childhood, when the episode 1 came out, it was very actually popular. The Nintendo 64 racing game of Star Wars 2 that I had it. Like I got.
Oh, you mean the pod racing game?
Yeah.
Hey, that's on sale on Switch right now if you really like it.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I know. I have a Switch, man.
Yeah, I just
I
bought
love
it a couple days ago. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna buy it on sale.
Best
Oh
thing that
yeah,
came
it's
from that
awesome,
movie.
man. It's awesome. I mean, I'm trying to get back to play. I was playing the Fallen Order, but I need to play Battlefront 1 and 2 that I want to finish. But I mean, when these came the first time, I watched episode 1 and 2 only. I never watched episode 3 until maybe 5-6 years ago. But I didn't get to finish it, and once I watched this one, it was actually pretty cool because it kind of gave a continuity to all of that I left off, and it feels wholesome, to watch something and get more of that universe that you stay longing for. And I mean, the cool thing about Star Wars is there's so much to expand to, and there's so much material that it's not that it's endless, but I don't think that Star Wars fans feel hungry about watching what they love because there's plenty to watch, and there's a lot of fan fiction too made.
Not like it was before.
There's a lot more now than there was in 1983.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, the only thing that I have to say that they didn't do a favor to Boba Fett. They made a total idiot of him.
Yeah, it's true. He went from badass to complete comic relief. Yeah,
I think that was, for the record, in his defense, I don't think that was really Boba Fett. That was a stormtrooper in his suit.
I don't know. Boba Fett's one of those characters that I feel like has a reputation that he really doesn't deserve. What really did he do in the original trilogy?
I would agree with that.
Everybody can have a bad day. I mean, really, come on.
He had the wrong day.
He didn't really do a whole lot in the original trilogy, and he doesn't even have that much screen time. It was like, oh, he's a bad. Why is he a badass? He got thrown in a Sarlacc pit on accident from his own jetpack.
Yeah. Bad day, man. Everybody can have one.
Well, he had a few years of bad days because he was in 5 and 6.
I think Boba Fett is an example of a character that fills the imagination on people that are hungry for an IP. And I don't know if you guys agree with this, but at the time, we only had those 3, and we were hungry for, I know for the new people out there don't know that the hunger was real, and we had to go and get LPs. We have to go get books. We have to go get fan fiction to actually get our fix on Star Wars. So I think Boba Fett was a product of that, where he seemed, because it was less, it's more like a book. If you think about it, when you read a book, you let your imagination go wild. And that's why most of the adaptations that we see into live action from a book doesn't really pan out unless they really research. And even at that, it's never going to be like it is in the book, because the book depends solely on imagination. So what they did was the character didn't have much, barely have, I don't think he even had any lines. It didn't have many spots on it, but it seems so cool from the little that we had. Our imaginations ran wild. We kind of know where he came from. He works for Jabba the Hutt. He is, a bunny hunter, and I guess that plus the hunger of Star Wars at the time, kind of.
He's a bunny hunter.
Fed that, yeah, there you go. Fed that hunger to the level where people wanted to see more. And I remember there were figurines that you can buy. There were like it was all over the place, and I found that, I found myself in both ends, right? Because I was like, okay, like Brandon said, what did he do? He didn't do much, but I did feel at the time that, yeah, I would love to know more. You guys know me. I mean, from previous episode, whenever there's a question on IP, I would love to see a continuation of that story to see what's going on. So, yeah, I was happy when the Boba Fett show came up because I got to see more of him. But then so did many other people. And I think that's where the show failed, is because there was a public expectation of what that character was going to be or what could be from people's minds, just like happens exactly on the book when you make an adaptation of the book. And when that didn't pan out, just like any adaptation from the book, then we have the issues that we have right now. And I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong or if you guys agree or disagree with this comment, but I think that's what happened with the show.
Yeah, the Boba Fett we see in those last episodes of The Mandalorian when he was first introduced is a lot different than the Boba Fett that we see in his own show. Even the end credit scene of that last season of Mandalorian, where he comes into Jabba's palace and eliminates Bib Fortuna, just like a badass, just like we all imagined he would, is way different than what we see in the book. I don't think anybody wanted to see a touchy-feely, more sensitive bounty hunter. And unfortunately, that's what we got. But you're right. I mean, Boba Fett is an example, a really great example of people's expectations surpassing what not only what the reality is, but what the writing team and the creatives behind the scenes told us as far as story goes. And it is what it is. We have it. It exists. But I really do think that they missed the mark. It's kind of, the big deal was that Disney was saying that we can't have Boba Fett be a bounty hunter or a badass because that's what the Mandalorian is doing. And that first season of the Mandalorian was, okay, he was doing some bounty hunting, he was a badass, And then Grogu comes into the picture, and now he's a dad, and he's more touchy-feely. And it's like, come on, Disney. We don't want that. At least I don't.
You meant Baby Yoda, right?
Exactly.
I get what you're saying, Ro, but I really think that there is space for a hard ass.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm saying too.
I'm like Clint Eastwood's Western characters that said very little and just walked into a situation and dealt with it, and didn't fluff around, didn't have all the touchy-feely conversations, and just shot people up and walked away, and situations were solved whether everybody was happy with it or not. I mean, I still think there's a place for characters like that, and not everybody has to have a soft side.
Agree.
I still think they could have made Boba Fett. I mean, he could have been even more pissed and gone off after Han because he wanted revenge. I mean,
sure. I mean, the character of Fennec Shand was a lot tougher in the Boba Fett show than Boba Fett was. I mean, she wanted to take care of business the way we expected Boba Fett to take care of business. And he's like, "Oh no, just let's hear them out." We're like, "What?"
Shoot first, don't bother with the questions. That's more the sort of Western feel that I thought they should have gone for, but oh well.
No, but Rode does make a point. They don't want to make a competing show for their cash cow, and I find that to be such a shame, because there's a lot of people out there, especially old fans, for the first trilogy, the original trilogy. They were hoping for so much more from Boba Fett, and this is what they got.
I think actually they were hoping for so much less, which is like, we don't need a touchy-feely side of Boba Fett. We need a tough guy who, sure, everybody who sees him from the outside thinks he's just looking after himself. And that may or may not be the case, but the way he does it could be quite different to the Mandalorian, in that he doesn't go with all the touchy-feely thinking about everybody's side. He just goes, "Oh, I think this is what should happen. I'll kill these guys and sort it, and I'm gone." It doesn't have to be everybody's the nice police officer. You can have bad cop and still have cop,
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all.
Sometimes I wonder too if that's just kind of an overall Disneyfication of Star Wars. I mean, look at Mandalorian now. Oh my God, Grogu is doing cute things every 3 minutes in that show. Oh, this is so wonderful and cute. A while ago I posted, "Is Star Wars getting too soft?" And I think to some degree, I think it is. I know, we got some really great episodes of The Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett, where he's going around using the Darksaber and chopping aliens in half, and that's not very soft, per se. But I think one of the things that I'm really tired of is the daddy issues in the Mandalorian show. I think they're really, they're sticking to their guns with that, and I understand it's marketing. There were toys on clearance aisles from the sequel trilogy that stayed in clearance segments and wouldn't even sell for $5, and all of a sudden we got Baby Yoda, and you could not keep them on the shelves. So I mean, I kind of understand that from a marketing and a business perspective, but I think enough is enough.
Well, it's going to be a bit of variation. You can't have every tough guy have like a soft side and a kid. It's not like The Sims. You got to have a bit of variety.
Honestly, I don't know how well the idea, like if you wanted to just cut all the touchy-feely stuff out and you just say they went a different route with Boba Fett and they just made him a badass the whole time, I don't know how interesting of a show that would be, because you have to have something to like relate to with the characters, like some reason to watch, like some quest that he's on, some end goal in mind. I mean, they made Boba Fett a little touchy-feely with the Sand People thing, and he ends up getting like a soft spot, like helping build the city back up. But he's still an asshole, and he's still a crime lord at the end of the day. But they just showed a little bit of a soft side, and
he's a Disney crime lord. That's the problem.
That's the
and all like on the Star Wars getting soft thing, Star Wars has always had a bit of a soft side to it. There's always been the cute side of Star Wars and all of it, but there's still the adult element throughout to keep you interested. And then you've got stuff like Andor now, where there's not a whole lot of cute to it at all, and that I feel like that's for the people that don't want Grogu and the Pogs and C-3PO hovering around with Ewoks. And so I feel like the adult stuff's still there, but they got to get the cute stuff in, because at the end of the day, Star Wars is a profit machine, and you make profits from toys and you make profits from t-shirts and everything. And a shirt that says Grogu is going to sell better than a shirt that says badass with just a picture of Boba Fett on it.
You know a shirt that will make a lot of money without the character, just like the drawing of the suit that she was wearing. Princess Leia says, "I love my sister."
Oh my God.
Okay. We'll bring it back.
I don't think you even need that. I just have a picture of her, have a slave outfit, and have Siscon underneath it. That would do.
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Or a friend of Han Solo like this, and it's like, is Princess Leia saying like, it's not like that.
To bring this back,
Getting back to just a close family, really.
We're just close. I understand. I understand your point too. There is, Star Wars is a very unique IP. It's been around for decades, and there is a Star Wars for everybody. You want cute little porgs? Okay, they're right over here. You want a political drama? Okay, then you got that over here. And I think for me, that's one of the things that really impressed me about Andor, because there were no cute little aliens, there were no daddy issues. It was just a serious drama, whether Star Wars or not. It was just a really well-written drama, and I think for me, that was top tier Star Wars. It proved to me that the people behind the scenes, took the concept, the world of Star Wars, and really kind of got serious with it. And I loved that. I love The Mandalorian too, other than, now I'm starting to get tired of the stuff that I mentioned. But there definitely is, something for everyone in this world. And I guess, like, for me, I have to kind of remember that. But another tweet that I mentioned, I said, after Andor, it's going to be really difficult to go back to regular Star Wars. And that first episode of the new season of The Mandalorian proved me right. I'm like, what the hell is this? That's what she said. Yeah. But again, I just have to remember that, Star Wars has different flavors, I guess.
Well, and just to add to what you both have said, this movie, Return of the Jedi, I think it did.
Oh, that's right. We're talking about Return of the Jedi.
This movie did
Hey, isn't Boba Fett in this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has like most people have 60 seconds of fame, but he has just like 15 or 10.
Boba Fett's one of those characters that I feel like doesn't really earn it. Never mind.
This is where Boba Fett dies. So yeah, allegedly.
Boba Fett had a clothing malfunction.
I feel like anytime something goes wrong, Porg Hub. I feel like anytime anything goes wrong with a Mandalorian, it's always the damn jetpack. Like, surely there's something they can do to reinforce those things.
Yeah. But what I was going to say, Return of the Jedi was a perfect example. I think the reason why this movie is so good is that it had a perfect combination of all the different things that you guys were talking about, and it's even. So you have cuteness. How many of this the little guys
Ewoks.
I saw, and I actually bought a couple when I was younger. they made money from merchandise. It had cuteness, it had action, it had everything, and I think in a way that's what I would expect from all the Star Wars coming out, and I think what they're doing is they're doing a separation. You guys have to watch the YouTube video. I swear. I'm not going to say a thing. You gotta just watch it.
It's not convenient for you to say a thing.
So I think, and again, this is just my thought, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. But I think Disney is trying to separate it to the point where, like for example, Andor is very, very dark and serious. And then you have Boba Fett.
Was Andor directed by Chris Nolan?
No. And I think that's what it is. I mean, you find what you find right now because of that separation. I kind of noticed that, but I don't know if you guys noticed that or if you guys even agree with what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with what you're saying, and I think that is only fair that that's the way it is. I mean, I think that Disney is like aims to please, so they were trying also to give that other side that they were actually failing on, that such not Disney. Because one thing that I can tell you is that Disney, after the Marvels acquisition, they started being a little bit less shy about bringing on, okay, people die, it happens,
Okay. So yeah, this movie is a perfect example of you have everything in even amounts. And I think that's why this movie did so great, because at the end of the day, you're in for making money, and this movie is pleasing the most amount of people with making it even all throughout. And I don't know. That's just my thought. What do you guys think?
I think when I watched the movie as a young person, I wasn't thinking of a movie making money. It was the end of a 3-part story for me. And obviously, I wasn't alive to witness the serials of the 50s and stuff like that, but that's obviously one of the homages that George Lucas kind of, relied on, is the adventure serials and this and that. But, it really was a conclusion to a story about these great characters. And obviously the Return of the Jedi, episode 6, just Return of the Jedi, I guess, back in the day before it was episode 6. It's it really cemented the end of the Skywalker story. There's a lot of deep stuff going on at the end of that movie between Luke and his father, and redemption. Obviously, we all talk about redemption when we talk about Star Wars and the characters and stuff like that. So it's very, it was a very emotional end to a story that spanned the many years since 1977, and it was very exciting for me as a young person. And I think, a lot of times, we have to remember where these movies, what kind of time frame these movies or era these movies came from. I remember reading an article when George was kind of hinting about maybe making more Star Wars movies after Return of the Jedi. And this was when Industrial Light and Magic was really at its peak, doing special effects for every movie out there. You had Terminator, you had the Star Trek movies. I mean, they were at the cutting edge of movie filmmaking technology when it came to special effects. And George Lucas, I remember him saying, I do want to maybe one day go back to a galaxy far, far away, but the special effects that I need to tell this story are not up to par yet. And I was thinking, like, what the hell? What kind of stories is this guy going to tell that special effects are not
Jar
up to
Jar
par?
Binks.
Yeah, but we make fun of Jar Jar Binks in our circle of friends here, but you have to remember, man, George Lucas pushed the envelope with filmmaking technology. A lot of stuff changed because of his ideas, because of his special effects company and his process. Filmmaking is leaps and bounds where it would have been if it weren't for folks like George Lucas and all the people behind the scenes at ILM. I think like I said, Jar Jar Binks, okay, yeah, we've got issues with him, but I don't think we can discount the importance of that Gungan.
Yes, Darth Binks.
Darth Binks, exactly.
Let the charged Palpatines rise.
Going back to the initial question, because I know we're going around. The question was, how old were you when this movie first came out, and what was your first impression on it? I'm not sure between Brandon, how old were you and?
Well, when the original movie came out, I was -4 years old. But the first time I would have seen it was during the re-release period in '97. So I was 10 years old. Okay. I probably would have been 11 because it would have been on home VHS when I saw it. So I came in at episode 5, and then I went back and watched episode 4, and then I watched Return of the Jedi, and then I proceeded to rent them almost on a weekly basis from the public library and watch them over and over and over. And then the special edition was out, and I would watch them back and forth and trying to catch the differences in the original and the special edition. So I was in the prime target audience in '97 when I first watched Jedi.
So you basically watched this one last?
Yeah, of the original, yeah. This is the last one that I watched. And then I came in, then that led into the prequel trilogy, which came right after. So 2 years after, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
So when you watched this one, what was your, obviously you watched this last on the, out of the original 3. Mm-hmm. What was your impression the first time you watched this movie? Obviously you have a follow-up because you saw the other ones.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was, like it's already been said, it was just like getting the closing of the story. Like 5 ends on the downer, and you want to know what happens, and you don't know what happens, and you have to watch 6 to figure out what happens. And at that age, I wasn't really thinking like, well, when's the next one going to come out or anything. Like, I've been watching movies my whole life. It was the end of the story, and I accept it as the end, and I was there for it. I liked the ending. I didn't have complaints when I was a kid, and it just is what it was. I wasn't thinking about like, oh, there's the Ewoks for the cute and the sail and everything. And for me, I've always been all about the action scenes. So my favorite parts of the movie that I would always go to were the space battle above Endor and the lightsaber fight with Vader.
Nice. And
one of the scenes I like to watch over and over again in this movie is the fleet gathering to jump into battle. That's a beautiful series of shots with the X-wings zooming around the other capital ships. Mm-hmm. That had my science fiction brain captured for many years.
And that was before digital compositing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's why it's so amazing. I mean, you watch this movie and from the opening scene, it's light years ahead of the original Star Wars, and it's only 6 years later. It all looks so much more real and I'd say organic, but I mean, it just all fits together a whole lot better, except for one background, which is the Millennium Falcon in the docking bay when Han's giving Lando the Millennium Falcon to fly into battle. And they're standing in front of this thing that looks so much like a painting. It's not funny. It stands out like a sore thumb. I wonder why they didn't fix that in the re-release, but it's so obviously a painting. But and then everything else is good except for that.
And they tried to fix it because they had a shot where they walk away and then they turn into like dark shadows, and then the rest of that shot is like animated as the two characters start to walk away. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, except for that particular background, all of the special effects looked really good. I really didn't feel like they needed to tweak it all. Like putting a beak on the Sarlacc, why?
I don't know how true it is, but I heard a tale that the whole reason the special edition even exists was partly because George Lucas wanted to get his ex-wife like cut out of royalties for the film. And the idea is if you change enough of it, eventually it's a different release of the film and she wouldn't get royalties for it. Because apparently she was big in the original, like she was a creative source in the original trilogy.
I heard
Don't know how true it is, but that story exists out there in the verse. So
that might be an old wives' tale.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've heard the similar thing in the new Star Wars trilogy. Star Trek trilogy that they did. It had to differ by 10%, at least 10%, from the original movies and TV series before it could be considered a new work and not subject to copyright infringement. So I could see that being the case.
I want to interrupt the conversation just briefly to thank Ro.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. I want to thank Ro for being on our show. I know he has other engagements, but thank you so much. You're always welcome here at Science Fiction Remnant, and hope to see you on future episodes.
Thank you.
Well,
Ro.
thanks for having me.
Nice having you
really
yeah,
nice.
Do come back to I Am Robert.
Yes. Yeah, you should start a new hashtag. One day I'll have all you guys on our live show, which we usually do Saturday nights at 7:00 Central, and we could talk about. You should talk about the special editions. Do you like Yub Nub or Ewok Celebration? Yub Nub, Yub Nub.
I think Gio wants to talk about the Christmas special.
There you go. Happy Life Day to everybody.
Bye, Ro. Yeah. And for all of you who were watching our video feed and you notice Drew had to drop as well. So, so just to let you know. Okay, so going back to these to this movie, what scene from this movie you guys should be watching the YouTube video. So just remember, you want to like and subscribe, so you don't miss this. When you watch this movie, and this could be, it doesn't have to necessarily be your first impression, although it could be, in most cases would be. What scene comes to mind as being an impressive? I mean, this is something that you might have even experienced yesterday. It's just a collection of, because I know if you're like me, you have watched this movie multiple times. And we talked about this, like when this movie finished, we didn't have much. We didn't have much Star Wars. So all we had is just 3 movies, and we rewatched it and watched it and watched it because we had that hunger for this movie. So, and I guess we can start with Ray and move around the circle here. But what scene or what part of this movie do you recall after multiple times of watching this movie that kind of comes to mind immediately because it impresses you?
I'd have to be the space battles. I mean, they stuck in my mind from the moment I saw them for many years. Like even like I said, the shots of the fighters passing through the fleet, getting ready to jump to light speed to attack the Death Star around the forest moon of Endor. It's the spaceships and the real feeling of, well, these aren't just models hanging on strings anymore. They look like they have weight and momentum, and even though the fighter physics is complete bullshit, It's got nothing whatsoever to do with real space physics. The capital ships looked like they were behaving somewhat normally to physics. Like, you know, they couldn't turn on a dime or anything like that. They sort of yawed when they turned and all this sort of thing. And the size of the big capital ships and how they sort of hung in space, and they felt like they had real mass. And that was sort of the first time in sort of special effects history in big budget cinema where the ships really felt like ships. They didn't feel like models. I mean, even the original crawl scene of the Star Destroyer going over the top of the camera really slowly, that felt like it had weight, but it was very bright and very sort of plasticky looking. But by Return of the Jedi, the ships looked like ships. They were darker. They had bright lights and dark patches, and they didn't all look sort of washed out. And they really felt like they had weight, and that really sort of made it feel more real to me. So the space battles and the movement of the big capital ships and stuff, that's what really captured my imagination.
So
in the middle of the movie, in the latter part of the movie.
Because they were heavy, that's why they were dropping when they were shot.
That was the gravity of the Death Star pulling them.
Yeah, the gravity of the Death Star and the gravity of the planet.
Well, yeah, you have a really good point, because I was thinking, you know, this makes sense. You know, the ships, they get shot and all of a sudden they're dropping, like they're, you know.
Makes sense why the mission on the moon, the flag was waving.
but you cannot, Brandon, I was thinking the same thing, because you know, the bigger you are in space, the more gravity you are about to cause. And that's kind of like my mental. I know I'm wrong in this, right? But it kind of makes sense in my head, because these things are huge. And you know, we all agree, especially the younger you are when you have watched this movie, the vast size of the ships are very impressive. And they feel, especially on this movie, they feel massive. They feel heavy. They feel huge. So, you know, obviously, there has to be some sort of massive gravity with a mass size that the Death Star is on this. So I don't know. It just kind of makes sense in my head. What do you guys think? Yeah. I know the mad scientist might be rolling his eyes right now with my comments, but
well, I'd have to say that because it's a movie and you're not going to be standing around and waiting for several days for the masses of the Death Star and, you know, the capital ship with its conning tower blown out to draw towards each other. You've kind of got to speed things up a little bit to make it cinematic. So I can forgive them for that.
Yep.
I cannot
believe the ships falling into each other is a lesser of sins committed in the term of space physics in Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks cool. You know,
it does. That's I mean, at the end of the day, that's why it was done. It was like, oh, what if the Star Destroyer flies into the fucking Death Star and crashes? That's why it was done. It's because it looked cool.
But that ship is 11 kilometers long. And the Death Star's like, it's like, fuck that speed.
It's like crashing, still crashing, still crashing, still crashing, still crashing.
They couldn't sacrifice that much screen time.
Oh,
I mean, you really don't see a whole lot of like cruiser, like spaceship contact going on until you get to Rogue One. Like after that scene in Return of the Jedi, you really don't see the capital ships colliding anymore until the blockade runner rams those Star Destroyers in Rogue One.
Yep. Well, back in Empire, they had a couple of Star Destroyers scrape each other when they were chasing them on the Falcon.
Yeah, before Return of the Jedi, yeah. They had that near collision, and actually don't they like go above and below? Don't they just near miss?
There was the howl of sirens, and then there's a scraping.
Oh yeah, the camera shakes. Yeah.
Oh, you mean like you know, what was that?
The sound of tortured metal, I believe it's called.
Yeah. Galaxy
TM.
Quest style.
Yes, Galaxy Quest. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. And everybody's like leaning over, like, over this way.
Oh, wow.
That was a great show.
Gio, I know out of the four of us, you're the person who has seen this the least amount of times, only because it's only been a few years that you saw this for the first time. But if you can incorporate all the times that you have seen this movie, what can you tell would be a scene in this movie that impresses you?
I mean, it's not a short scene, but I loved when Luke comes back to rescue Leia. And basically, he's telling all along, warning Jabba the Hutt, "Hey, I'm warning you. I'm warning you." And he just keep on throwing at him, and he just kills the freaking big monster. And then he's on the ledge, standing up, and like, "Last chance that you got." And then he's just jumping ships and killing everybody. It's just pretty cool, man.
Jabba, this is your last chance. Free us or die.
It was just, I think that it's one of the most badass things in the whole movie. It's how Luke just like warns him all along.
I was just gonna say that is badass.
Yeah, it was super Daredevil. I mean, it was pretty cool. I don't think that I think that it was something like the scenery and like the choreography and everything was pretty awesome for the movie on the time. I think I watched this movie maybe like 6-7 times. Besides that, I think that one of the coolest scenes too, it is a little bit more touchy, and is when he's fighting with Darth Vader, and basically he's gonna turn and kill him, but he doesn't, which I think is a very deep and meaningful scene too.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it didn't mention it in the plot, but when he chops Darth Vader's hand off at the wrist,
He saw himself in there.
about that he'd done it. He had it done to him, and he now had a mechanical hand. And I think that's what brings him back from turning to the dark side. He realizes that that's where he's going. He would be
100%. That's specifically put there for that purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that snapped him out of it. And I mean, I think it's
if I'm not mistaken, doesn't he, after looking at his hand, doesn't he stop and then look at his own hand and then?
Yes.
Yes, he does. He does.
And that's when he throws his lightsaber away.
Yeah.
Yes. He shuts it down and put it down. I think it's beautiful because the message that it gives is like nobody is too deep into water that is worth giving up on. I think that's the whole message behind the symbology, the symbolism behind Luke and Anakin. If you think about it, I think that's beautiful and very deep. Actually, it's a beautiful message.
Whiny ass Anakin after Papa.
Yeah, brown nosing. And I mean, I'll tell you, just in a hilarious note too. Two things that I liked that I found hilarious was how Jabba the Hutt would like be like choking Leia, pulling her by the leash like an animal. That ugly Muppet that he had as a pet. I mean, that thing was ugly, man. It was ugly.
But you see, Jabba was framed as a really bad guy. I mean, the scene where they're torturing the droids.
Yeah.
It's like you're pulling droids apart and you're burning the bottoms of their feet. For what reason exactly?
I mean, but I'm sorry. I mean, torturing droids, it's like you're a bad guy wannabe.
Well, you can't have torturing people in a movie for kids. So, you know, do the next best thing, torture the robots.
In defense of that, this movie was not made for kids. This was not Disney back then.
No.
Exactly.
It was made for everybody. It wasn't specifically made for kids, but yes.
I think it was made for young public, but you can also see like on a bigger scale of notes too how we have make more soft for all kind of public things, because I mean a lot of the rings were made for kids. When talking Road the Hobbit, and I mean I don't know a single kid that likes it. I mean everybody that likes it is an adult, and it's very into D&D and fantasy stuff like that. So I think that you can see the adaptation. I mean, when you show me that Jabba the Hutt was not actually that big block monster, it was actually a dude. It was funny to see. And you and I watched, Robert, actually how they adapted, like he's stepping on the tail, and they changing Jabba the Hutt to the new character that is what it is now. besides that, I found hilarious. I mean, it just played out in my head. But when Palpatine is like telling like Darth Vader about getting Anakin and like he's being very bad and dark, and I'm like, crap, man, you could actually just put like a porn movie and put these lines, and it sounds very like BDSM dirty thing. Like, yeah, give me with all your rage and worth.
Oh wow. Yeah, I was showing Geo for context, because he he did not experience what I experienced when it comes to this. He has not seen the multiple versions of this movie that we have actually seen. I still remember how a lot of people were really upset every time they decided to make a change to this movie. And I'm gonna go ahead and screen share so you guys can see what I was showing Geo. This is just an image of what the actor that they used for Jabba and how they superimposed him. They superimposed Jabba the Hutt on top of him. So that's an actual scene that was actually filmed. This was when Han was going to the Millennium Falcon back in Tatooine, and it was met by Jabba the Hutt, where he was saying, "Okay, you owe me," and that very well known interaction they had, where they said, "Yeah, I'll basically I'll just do it better the next time." So, but it's not necessarily this movie that we're talking about, but I just wanted to bring it up so you guys can see.
Well, I mean, there is a similar change made in Return of the Jedi. That it was a big change. It was the music scene in Jabba's palace. They added a whole new song, and they tried to put it in originally, like the female alien, the one with like the nozzle mouth. She originally was a puppet that was controlled with sticks from underneath the stage, and they couldn't get it to look natural, so they just cut the whole thing out. And then when they went back into the special edition, they CG'd that whole song and put it back in.
Yeah, and in retrospect, there's a lot of us that were mad with all the changes, but in retrospect, it's kind of like the experience that we all shared on the journey that we call Star Wars. That the new people, the new additions to the IP will never experience unless they go out and search for it online, or Google it, or on YouTube. I don't know. It's kind of like one little experience that we can all share from our times from the beginning of this whole IP, and that's the reason why I wanted to bring Geo into it, because out of all of us, he's the newest one in this IP, and it's never going to be the same, obviously, but at least he can see what was like for us, who actually grew up with this IP.
And the Baby Yoda here.
Grogu. Oh, so Brandon, I'm not sure if you got to answer the question. What was, and I know you probably kind of like with me and Ray in this, but you've probably seen this so many times. In the collection of times that you have seen this movie, what scene can you recall, or multiple scenes if you want to mention, do you recall that this has there was a scene that kind of really called your attention? It was impressive to you in retrospect, counting all the times that you've seen this movie.
For me, there's exactly 3 scenes that pop in my head when I think of this movie. And the first one is, well, it's more than one scene, but it's the whole thing going on with Palpatine, Vader, and Luke in the Death Star. And just, yeah, Papa. And because that's the first time you see a new colored lightsaber. In the original Star Wars, we've only seen Anakin's original blue and Vader's red and Obi-Wan's blue, and we got the green lightsaber now. And just seeing like the dark like battle going on in there with the green and the red, and Palpatine sitting there like, strike me down and complete your training the whole time. It's just like that's number one that always comes to mind when I think of Return of the Jedi. And I mean, that's kind of the whole returning of the Jedi, the title of the movie, or the original title, Revenge of the Jedi. Like the Jedi are getting back at the Sith that took them all out in through Luke or through Vader at the end, taking Palpatine down. But after that, and it's not like a big iconic scene, but specifically it's the scene where Vader is walking off of the shuttle into the Death Star and all the like stormtroopers are lined up and everything. And the reason it sticks out, it's not like an important scene, it's not super memorable, it's just Vader's armor in that scene. Like, it is so much more sheen than it is at any time before in the original trilogy. Like, it just makes this movie feel like the pinnacle of the original trilogy, especially when you're like 10 years old. It's like, wow, look how much better it looks. Like, there's lights reflecting off his armor and everything. It's so that one. And then the last one is one specific scene in the space battle above Endor where you're looking out of the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon into space, and all the TIE interceptors are like coming at the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. And I kid you not, I watched that scene, God, at least 200 times on the original and the special edition, because that's one of the big scenes I remember being different between the original and the special edition. There were way more fighters in the original theatrical release, and there were less fighters that looked better in the special edition. So those are the three for me.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because, you know, you get a sense from those scenes, right? Talking about two specific ones that you mentioned, the one with Darth Vader and the one with fighters. And I can point out two separate sources where someone has made a great job in putting you in front of those scenes. So as impressive as it is to actually meet Vader, especially on that scene, or to actually be on the cockpit of any ship and having multiple TIE fighters coming at you, I would have to point out VR and two specific ones. What was the first? I forgot the name of the first Star Wars game for PlayStation. Had and I'm gonna have to look it up.
X-Wing, TIE Fighter,
Battlefront. I think it was Battlefront. They had a scene. They had, when the PlayStation VR came out, they had like an edition they gave you for free if you bought the game, where you actually are in an X-Wing and you actually, you know, doing missions.
I remember that.
You remember that? It was very short though. It was an entire mission. You had to complete multiple things. So it wasn't as short, but in retrospect, it was very short because one, it ended, and then you were left with this emptiness in your heart. But being inside the X-Wing on the PlayStation really I got goosebumps, especially when we came out of hyperspace and there was, you know, all these TIE fighters coming at you, and it reminded me of the scenes that the scene that you're talking about. And why I said they did a really good job at it is, I don't know if it's partly because it was the technology, the VR technology, but it was very impressive to be placed right in the middle of this scene. And I don't know if you guys have, you know, ever had the opportunity to play with the PlayStation VR. But I actually showed Gio. How do you felt about this? I mean, I showed you because I was like a little kid. I was actually screaming.
I remember. That was a teaser for Squadron. Which actually I don't know why we haven't got back to it, but I have it now. I don't know if it's cross-play, and if it is, we can play it now, man.
I don't think it is.
But it was amazing.
The other thing that I was going to point out is a series of games for the Oculus called Vader Immortal.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this. If you haven't, I recommend you at least get the first one if you have an Oculus, because there's something to be said about being face to face with Vader.
Yes, it's worth it.
The first time you play this game is just like you imagine what it would be to be in front of him. And I got goosebumps, and it's scary as hell. You look
Honestly,
up, and this
it's worth it.
figure towering over you. So, I just want to point out those two things because I just get giddy.
I mean, it's not VR, but on a similar note, the first time I got to the ending of Jedi Fallen Order, that was intense when Vader comes out. Like, you're not expecting it at all, and all of a sudden you hear, and then the lightsaber comes through the chick that you just finished fighting. You're like, oh shit!
Yes.
And then you're like, surely,
run!
Yeah, like surely you're like, no, they're not gonna make me fight Vader. And then by God, you gotta fight Vader, and you're like, son of a bitch.
Hey, I am stuck actually in that game. Robert wants me to go and like look for a how-to, but I kind of like refuse to do it.
Nah, you can do it.
Well, I've been playing
Man, I
Star
don't
Wars
want to.
games. I've been playing Star Wars games for decades. The first one I ever played was Star Wars Rebel Assault, which was a game that streamed off of a CD-ROM. Because back in the 386 days, you didn't have enough memory to have it all load onto the computer, so it actually had to stream from a disc as you played it, and so it was a bit chunky. But you were supposedly in an X-wing, and you were flying around a Star Destroyer, shooting the turrets off it while it was shooting back at you, and you had to dodge the shots and take the turrets out. And it played that. The music from the original Star Wars where the Millennium Falcon's escaping the Death Star and they're fighting off the TIE fighters?
TIE attack.
Dun, 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 dun. That music would play for like 30 minutes while you were trying to beat this thing. Over and over again for 30 minutes.
It's like playing the old Dark Forces game. It just plays the same song over and over and loop the whole episode.
Exactly. And it just went on and on and on. It's like, oh God, am I dreaming? Let me out of here. But they've come a long way since those days. I mean, I played through all the Star Wars X-Wing and Star Wars TIE Fighter and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And they were terrific games. I remember the original X-Wing game had a fault in the AI enemy control where you could actually park 150 meters below the a Star Destroyer. Well, first of all, you had to take out the shield generators. So you'd fly back and forth across the top of the conning tower, shooting at the shield domes until they exploded. Then you'd fly underneath the ship and park 150 meters from the docking bay, and it couldn't track, like the guns from the sides, which didn't have like turrets, you couldn't shoot them off. They couldn't target you because you were too far underneath. So you'd have all these green beams going around you, but they couldn't actually hit you. You just sat there shooting into the docking bay until it ran out of hit points and exploded. Single X-Wing destroying so many Star Destroyers. It was just crazy. But, if you played it for long enough, you worked out all these exploits. And for simple games, they had a lot of depth to them. Like you could adjust your energy levels on your X-Wing, so you could buff your shields so you could take more hits, or you could buff your weapons and spend all your time dodging so that you didn't get hit. They were great games, and they actually got a lot harder when the AIs got better and they introduced things like the anti-fighter torpedoes, concussion missiles. Once the concussion missiles came in, it got really, really, really hard because they were really hard to dodge. But before that, like laser beams are easy to dodge in Star Wars because they're so goddamn slow.
I actually remember playing X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. I actually had a squadron that was big enough all across, we had, let me call it division in Europe and one here. And I don't know if you ever played that game, but it allowed you to form squadrons in what you want it to be. So there's squadrons of TIE fighters, that there are people in the Imperial and then people on the Rebel side. I locally was in the Rebel side. We had a collection of people that were playing the Jedi Knight games. So I think it was called the Jedi Flying Knights back when. And I had a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun. It's my very first experience with some sort of command, if that makes any sense, where I would send in people out, we will meet on a weekly basis and plan out our strategy to, there's this other crew here, they're Imperials, and we want to go in here and destroy them. It was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun.
Didn't you play one that was like an MMO, Robert?
A while back.
Star Wars Galaxies.
You even took me to, like, you were showing me. You showed me like this big penthouse you had on it.
Yeah. So yeah, my love for Star Wars goes way back.
Honestly, I feel like Star Wars video games have done more for building the IP of Star Wars and bringing in fans more than any show or any movie have done. Because like we pointed out earlier in this, there was a long time that there were no Star Wars movies made, but by God, they were still making Star Wars video games.
Oh, for sure.
I remember, I want to say it might have been before I saw the movies. I'd have to look up the date to make sure. But you mentioned Rebel Assault. I just had to Google to make sure what it was. Rebel Assault 2 was one of the first games I remember playing that were Star Wars, and was on PlayStation. And I will never forget that game solely because of the really bad acting that was in it, where instead of saying yeehaw, like yeehaw, it's a commonly accepted phrase, right? They say haw ye at the end. I was like, what in the hell is haw ye? But yeah, they definitely do. And it had the invisible TIE fighters, and it was like the story plot of it. And then there was Dark Forces. I had that on PC when I was a kid, and I was always too afraid to get past the second level. And God, what were they called? The Rogue Squadron games on N64 and GameCube.
Oh,
I played the hell out of those games.
I played a lot of Dark Forces 1, 2, and 3. They were great fun.
Yeah, I played 1 and then completely got out of it until they put Jedi Academy and Jedi Outcast on Xbox, and then I picked those up, which would be the 3rd and 4th entries, I think, in Dark Forces.
Yeah.
But yeah, the video games I feel like have done more for Star Wars than any of the movies have.
Everyone I knew went as a Dark Jedi because they wanted Force Lightning. Everybody,
yeah,
and choking people, ha ha ha, funny. But I will bring up something. There's a couple of things in Return of the Jedi which make me head scratch to this day. When Luke walks into Jabba's palace, he force chokes 2 of the Gamorrean guards.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think the Jedi were supposed to do that.
Maybe he was just. If I'm not mistaken, it's not like Force specific like traits that you can do, like in the video games, like you pick Force choke or Force heal or Force lightning and Force jump. It's just using the Force, and Jedi typically don't do anything that uses the Force offensively.
Well,
is the rule of thumb.
You have a point, because there's many games that I have played, like what was that called? Jedi Knights. It's an MMO. I actually have a house on Coruscant that it took me a lot of gameplays to build.
I remember. Old Republic, isn't it?
Huh?
Old Republic, isn't it?
The Old Republic, I think it was called. Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't played it in years. Oh my God. So that apartment that I have in Coruscant is probably getting cobwebs and stuff like that. But but
same as my kid in Skyrim.
You have a really good point in what you said, because in that game you could actually use the Force in any way you like. It's how you use it, and the end up result is that moves your force needle to one side or the other. So you could actually turn Sith if you keep on using or doing things, not necessarily just using like the force choke, but like if you do it on a way, like if you force choke someone to save someone, just to give you a poor example, that still might move you to the light side. But if you just choke someone just for choking someone's sake, that was going to move you to the dark side. So I'm not sure how canon this is, but it kind of makes sense to me that you could use. It's just how you use it and what's the end result.
Yeah, I'm just looking up. I know canonically there are some things that you can't do, like light side, like force lightning's example, but there is a light side version of force lightning, and I was trying to remember what Jedi did it and what it's called, but
yeah, I think if I don't understand this correctly, some of those required the negative feelings, like anger, and so if you're a Jedi, you're not going to have typically those feelings. So, but you could get those feelings to do those things. But in getting those feelings, that is basically what Yoda said. This is the path to the dark side.
Yeah, right. It's the going back to what you said about Luke force choking, though. I never saw that at him like actually choking, like how Darth Vader chokes, because Vader like strangles and crushes their windpipe and kills him. I just saw it like, if I'm not mistaken, he just does this and this to him, and he's just like he's pushing them out of the way. They're doing this, and I see it as him just like pushing them out of the way, and he just happens to be pushing them on the throat. That was my own internal justification of it. It's like I didn't choke him; I just pushed him really hard right here.
Hey, mad scientist, Captain Happy Ending approves.
Admiral
Happy Ending approves.
Yeah, you have to be higher than the captain, or you can't be in command.
Maybe he's a private happy ending.
Well, he would have been at one point. Might be a bit past that now, but
he's gone public now.
Now the other thing that seemed a little dodgy to me was the conversation between Luke and Yoda when Yoda was fading out. Yoda originally says, "No more training do you require. Already know you, that what you need." And then not 2 minutes later, he says, "Was a shame that you rushed to face him. That incomplete was your training. That not ready for the burden were you." And it's like, make up your mind, you little dick. Does he know enough or doesn't he?
Well, in his defense, I think that it seems by the assertion of Palpatine and Vader that if you know how to make your own lightsaber, you're a Jedi already.
Mm-hmm. You know, like before I forget, I have to mention, and we can move on to the conversation. I just gotta mention this right on the air, that the reason why, and you probably hear me say or hear us say in previous Star Wars episode on this show, Papa Palpa is from across the star. So I just gotta make that mention there. That's where I heard it from first, and it just stuck. I just love it.
Which comes from Robot Chicken.
I like it because it makes Captain Chaos laugh. So that's
Papa Palpa.
Do it.
I'm sorry, Ray. Go ahead. I just had to mention that before I forget.
I've been completely thrown off my tirade. That was terrible.
Isn't that what happens in this show?
Well, honestly, I'm still ashamed. I'm still ashamed that our mad scientist finds plausible that a ship drops into space.
Hey,
I expect more of you, Ray.
Ships can fall any direction they want.
Yeah.
In the outer space, not even by gravity, will take a lot.
There's no up, there's no down.
It's like I said, the pieces will fall towards the nearest large object because they all create their own gravity. It's just doing it a little bit fast because it's a cinematic scene.
A little bit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, look, it's space fantasy. I realize this. If you accept that as the paradigm, then it's all good.
You don't say.
Well,
I
you know,
do
that's
say.
the appeal. That's the appeal for this franchise. That's the appeal for this IP. It's you know, every IP has its own thing, right? I know that hardcore sci-fi fans might not, you know, 100% prefer this IP, but it's still lovable for what it does, or for what it did, for what it represents. It's a lighthearted look at sci-fi with fantasy lens.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love it. I love it. It's like I love hard sci-fi, right? Don't get me wrong, but I can't have hard sci-fi every single day. You know, your brain would just, you know. So you need those. You need that fantasy sci-fi. You need the soft sci-fi. You need all that. You need. It's kind of like a refreshing look into, and this is what it does, and it's impressive. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I watch it so many times.
As a fantasy story set in space, it's spot on. It's not hard sci-fi. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
It's not. But you know how dangerous it is to run with scissors, and you know, if you have an accident with a sharp chopping knife while you're cooking, you know, there's blood and there's pain, and also
Better than falling with the scissors in the hand.
Exactly. But you know, a bad day with a lightsaber is a really fucking bad day, right?
Well, for safety,
Yes.
if you fall, you usually let go of it so it goes off. Which, by the way,
I'm sure there's plenty of people could find a way not to let go of it.
Yeah, but anybody thought of like if you're gonna like clash swords with somebody and you want to kill and you just turn it off and then turn it back on when he crosses it?
Uh-huh.
It's over.
Captain Kiss is not going to let it go. He's not going to let it go.
No,
yeah, think about it. It's true. Many other fights would have been done quick.
If you could position yourself so their through swing wouldn't hit you, but your through swing would hit them, it's perfectly viable to go, oops.
Yeah.
Perfectly viable.
Yep.
Hey, what happens if the others, you know, the other lightsaber just crosses you when you turned off your lightsaber?
Well, at least I took him with me.
You would have to position yourself so that your swing would cut through them, but their swing wouldn't cut through you. So you'd have to sidestep it.
Whoa.
But if they weren't ready for you to do that, it could be the one and done. Like, seriously.
Darth Maul doesn't have that problem. He just jumps
I would
from
still
his
love to
buddy.
see I still would like to see a Force user fight where they keep turning each other's lightsabers off. Stop that!
I mean, there is a fighting style that it's a Sith fighting style where you turn your lightsaber off, but Jedi don't use it because it's not fair, and Sith don't use it because it's a wuss thing to do. We're like, you swing at them, but your lightsaber's off, and then you turn it on, and it like slices them, and they can't block it coming in because your lightsaber's not on.
Did you watch Visions by any chance?
Yeah.
The episode of like the samurai kind of look alike. That's how he kills the Sith.
Yeah.
Did you notice? That's what he did. Like he actually put what he has several. So he puts one in the statue behind the waterfall. She goes and attacks the statue, and then he just goes dead.
Yep.
Wow.
See, I reckon they should create a show around a Jedi Porg who does shit like that. I think Robot Chicken could do a show like that.
Jedi Porg. I still want to see a Wookiee that speaks Galactic Basic. That's what I'm waiting for. And he's like an accountant. Like nothing exciting. He's not a warrior.
That would be so freaking awesome.
Have you done with your receipts?
No, he doesn't even talk like Wookiee. Like it's just like, hi, my name's Jeff, and I work at an accounting firm here in the New Republic. And it's just 7 foot tall hairy dude.
That would be awesome. You know, very well mannered.
I'd watch it. I'd watch it.
Let the Wookiee win. No, you don't have to let me win. I play fair.
Oh no, that's okay. I don't play. I don't believe in gambling.
But do you have to
Why gonna?
Oh wow.
Han Solo? No, never heard of him.
So I guess we're at the point where we're gonna ask Captain Chaos favorite question.
And let's not forget to mention what Robert forgot to say today. And you know the drill. Now we're gonna go with last impressions.
So
I mean,
if you follow our show, you know that Captain Chaos loves the question that I post usually at the end of our show. Where I
usually I prefer it when you milk it, when you say the first thoughts and then your last thoughts, and then your thoughts. Just kidding. I mean, honestly, like not to put it in too long, I think that this movie is fantastic, and I think that it's enjoyable because, for example, for my generation, we got to see the first episodes first because the Phantom of Menace came out basically when I was a kid, and you had the video games, which I enjoy a lot. And I think it's not that the movies soundtracks were bad, but I think that they actually took it to another level with the 1990s Star Wars, with the orchestras and everything. I used to just look for those videos and just watch the orchestras soundtracks because they were magnificent. They were super dramatic. They would actually rapture you into the story. I think that it was state of the art music too. And I think that when I finished basically on the first thoughts and last yeah.
I just put that in the show notes.
and then you can put it in when you're done and tell me what are you pondering about on this too. But basically, I think that at the end of the day, like Star Wars is not a story that is difficult to fall in love with. It's beautifully made. It has a little bit of everything, and I think that there's a good balance on that. And this story gives good closure to the story. So much it was so well made. I think that I mean I'm not a hater of the Rogue One and so, but it made it difficult for it to actually make up to the expectation that it created, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like honestly, I think the finality and the acceptable ending of this movie and the closure of that story is what makes it so hard for some people to like the sequel trilogy, because we were done with Skywalker. Skywalker was done. Luke was going to open his own temple on Yavin and make the Jedi come back, and Papa Palpa fell down a hole to never be seen again because he was in a giant space station that exploded. And that was that, because you don't come back from that. And then I'm back, bitches. Like it made it hard to accept. Like,
couldn't they have found somebody else? Couldn't they have just done something different? Like, maybe Palpatine
Robert,
Jr. somewhere.
Well, I mean, I see where they were coming from. I get where they were coming from, because like in the old expanded universe, Palpa doesn't stay dead in that either. But I mean, it's a completely different plot line. It's like him and Vader both are in clone bodies and everything. But then you're like, well, why is Vader still in the armor if he's in a clone body? But that's a different story. It's just, I get where they were going from, but it like I said, it makes it hard to accept that plot line with the ending of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I do agree. If you think bottom line is all about making the money, I think that they could have milked it just as well if they continue the story instead of trying to, let me explain. Like, I would love to see, Jedi and Leia and Luke training. I would love to see a movie about Luke starting the temple, recruiting I would love to see all that. They could have continued. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in this, but there's still a lot of things in Star Wars that I want to see, and I'm not sure that I'm going to get it.
You wouldn't need a movie. You could just do like short series, like The Mandalorian.
Well, and we're kind of getting that in little bits and pieces too. Like specifically Luke and Leia training. We saw that for about 45 seconds in episode 9, or was it 8? I can't remember. Yeah. It was one of them. We saw him train for about 45 seconds. And then the Jedi temple, Luke starting up the temple, we got a little bit of that in episode 7 and now, or episode 8. And now we're getting a little bit more of it as we go along via Mandalorian. But it's very much a tease because you just want to be like, okay, what the hell happened? And instead you got, well, in today's episode, you see Luke bought a front door for the temple. And then we go back to the modern day.
But, and I gotta say, I agree with what you say, and I think that, I mean, I haven't seen more coming up the Mandalorian. I don't know if you guys know anything about it, any sneak peeks or anything, but I feel like they kind of exploited the Baby Yoda face, and I don't feel like it's going anywhere. So, like, if I feel at this point, like, they better make up for that with some good outcome. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, okay, Luke picked him up, and now what? You know? Because, I mean, you have 2 seasons of this guy just carrying around the baby and running away with it, you know, and building up a lot of backstory that is just like a little bits of bits in here, but it doesn't really give you the full body of it. That's my take on it. Like, I love Mandalorian, but then I haven't seen more coming out. I don't know why, because it was a total success. And it has so much potential, man. Like, they just
Mandalorian's going again.
Yeah, Mandalorian started on right now.
Yeah, 2 episodes are out every Wednesday.
I gotta watch them.
I watched both right now.
They've even said, like, what is his name? Not Filoni, but the guy that show runs Mandalorian and Boba Fett that came over from Marvel. I can't remember his name. But anyways, he even said that the story is not going the way he originally wanted it to because of intervention from higher ups. Like, he did not want Grogu to go back with Mando, with Din, and he wanted him to stay with Luke, but the higher ups overruled that because Grogu sells. So
and
I guess we'll see where it goes.
Sense. I would have loved to see a spin-off of like Grogu becoming a Jedi.
Right.
And I think we got, you know, they robbed that from us. I think. I don't know if I'm the only one thinking this way, but
John Favreau.
Like this.
Yeah, that's it. Favreau. Yeah.
So. Yeah.
I mean, I get it both ways. I feel like I'm biased towards wanting Grogu to go through the whole Jedi thing because I'm all about space wizards and their laser swords. But I get the other point of the story that they're going with now. With he goes back with Din, and I mean, he's still using force powers and stuff even now in season 3, but it's not the same as like him like full on learning the force and becoming Yoda 2.0. I mean, I have my theories of where the story is going to end up with him in terms of Jedi-isms, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah. So, Ray, do you have any final thoughts on this movie?
It was simultaneously awesome and sad because you wanted to know how it turned out, but then you knew you weren't going to get much after that. And, you know, there was a huge drought there. Certainly the games filled it in a bit, but there was a long drought that, you know, could own that to sate the hunger for Star Wars, you had to read the novels and play the games and, you know, get your Star Wars wherever you could until they got around to making some more. And I don't know how the rest of the original trilogy fans felt, but going back and doing the prequels, sure, there was a few things there we wanted to know the details of, like the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin. But really, I wanted it to continue. I would have liked to have seen them do the alien invasion from outside the galaxy story as, you know, like a series or movies or what have you. Just or the Thrawn trilogy, which we may even see Thrawn in the Ahsoka show. But really, I think that Thrawn versus Luke was a really good throwdown in the now non-canon novels as they've become. but that would have made a great next trilogy. The New Republic versus Thrawn, because like the arrogance of the Emperor, he just thought he knew everything and nobody could beat him because he could see the future and rah rah rah. And it was that arrogance that was his downfall. Thrawn had no arrogance. Thrawn was completely calculating. He was a different type of bad guy. And he had his reasons for working with the Empire, and he was trying to save his people and his planet. And he thought that the Empire was the only group that could do that. And he was a much more understandable. He wasn't so much a bad guy as an opposing force or opposing commander. And I think it would have been nice to have another trilogy with the New Republic getting on their feet, and Princess Leia's in the background trying to sort out all the problems, and Luke's out there trying to rebuild his order, and Han's wandering around doing roguey stuff, and then they have to come back together to deal with this Thrawn guy who seems like a bit of an upstart until he starts smashing the New Republic. And it could have been a fantastic trilogy and had a whole different bent from the, oh, yes, we're the Sith and we think we're the bee's knees and our farts don't stink and we're going to win everything. Oh, we didn't win everything. Fuck. It would have been, oh, God, this guy's actually worse than the Emperor. He's smart and he's got plans within plans and he's got backups and he's really hard to beat, and I think that would have made a better second trilogy than the prequels, personally. But that's just me.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely hear you there. Yeah, and I feel. I mean, my final thoughts are you guys kind of touched in a different aspect of what I was going to say. Anyways, I feel with you, Ray, when you said this. The happiness of finally getting a conclusion to the story, as well as the sadness that comes with knowing this is the end. And although we had no idea when we finished this movie, when the credits were rolling, we had no idea that we had the hopes that maybe next year we'll get another one, but the story ended. And it proves so, because we had so many years after this that there was no Star Wars, and we were suffering with a hunger for the story until like today. Now let me talk like a true old man. Kids nowadays don't know the struggle.
No.
Well, I mean, a lot of it had to do with Harrison Ford and how he just didn't want to play Han again. And when one of the main actors, which you couldn't imagine replacing, says he doesn't want to do it anymore, that's the end of it. You can't really force someone to act. And I got to say that the acting in Rog was right up there. I mean, they were settled with the characters. The writing was good. And they knew how to play off each other. And I don't know how many takes they took to do the scenes, but my God, they really nailed a lot of those scenes. The interplay between the characters was excellent, and the comedy was there, and it was just the right amount of comedy, and it didn't draw away from the action. And I really think that it peaked. The Star Wars story peaked at Return of the Jedi. It really was a satisfying watch, and you could rewatch it and enjoy it all over again. But you're right, it was the end, and it was the sadness of the sort of the loss of the continuality of the story. And yeah, it would have been really nice if Harrison Ford hadn't been such a dick and had kept playing Han Solo, and we could have got some more stuff. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody else was up for it. It was just him.
Yeah, and I heard that too. It's sad. I mean, you wonder sometimes, but
Well, the only reason he came back for the first part of the sequels was to get killed. He said, "I will only play Han again if he dies."
And that was heart-wrenching.
He was needing rest.
that was I understand his reasoning for it, but I felt done so wrong to see a beloved character. You know, I don't know. I mean, it's just me. You know, I'm Admiral happy ending anyways, but it just felt so bad for me to see a beloved character.
Well, it seems very inconsistent when an actor says, "Oh, I don't like rehashing a character over and over again," and then he goes and does the number 5 and number 6 of Indiana Jones. It's like, hang on a second, wait a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he's the star of that one. That's completely different.
I think Han Solo was pretty starish in. He was
3.
ensemble, but he was right up there.
Star Wars would not be Star Wars without Han Solo. So yes, I agree with that statement.
Yeah, Star Wars
I mean,
without
all
Indiana
through
Jones
the thing.
wouldn't be
Whenever he walked on screen, everybody looked at him. It was like he just.
Well, that's just because he was the sexiest man alive in the 70s.
Yeah, but he'd swagger up and he'd say something, and Princess Leia would be like melting. She couldn't help herself.
Scruffy looking Nerf herder.
In a way, Han Solo could control Leia's force.
Who's scruffy looking? You could use a good kiss.
Awesome. So that actually concludes this episode. So should we move on to the next segment?
The science in sci-fi.
Take it away, Ray.
Hey, yeah, I was supposed to make up something about this, wasn't I?
Could you find something? Could you find something?
Well, you know, it's like Ray said at the big, previously. We have done, this would be our third Star Wars movie on this show. And we have talked about some of the concepts that we talked about in this. They're never going to change, considering this is, a sci-fi fantasy. I mean, we could talk about generics. We could talk about energy. We could talk about psychology, robotics, space travel, you name it. There's multiple things that we can talk about.
We did cover a lot of that in previous episodes.
Exactly.
But I do have something that I haven't talked about before. So in the search for exoplanets over the last decade and a half, they've been finding a lot of different exoplanets and a lot of different solar system situations. A lot of people claim that you could never get a planet with twin suns and have it, possibly suitable to support life. But actually in 2011, NASA's Kepler Space Telescope discovered the first planet orbiting twin suns, which was dubbed Kepler 16b. And it was an uninhabitable gas giant. But in 2012, the telescope was used to discover 2 more planets in a binary star system that were extremely close to the so-called habitable zone, which is, the zone of liquid water. There are planets out there that have 2 suns that could possibly support life.
And Ray, I just have to add to that, because many people, because of where we are in our, we talked about this, our experiences forge who we are. So many people think that is weird, right? But if you follow science, especially, anything that has to do with the cosmos and the planets and galaxies and stuff like that, you notice something, that we are the exception. The binary star systems are a lot more common that single, the solar systems that have a single sun. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that depending on which sort of theory you follow of how the solar system may have been created, there's a lot of unusual happenings in our solar system which led to the rise of a planet in the Goldilocks zone that had lots of liquid water and the ability to support life, carbon-based life. So the situation in a lot of star systems is that you have what's called hot Jupiters. So you have, because of the size of and obviously the gravity of a Jupiter-sized planet, they're normally in close to the sun. And when they sweep in close to the sun, they knock all the rocky planets, they either absorb them or knock them into the solar corona, and they get destroyed. So you have a lot of star systems out there that have a few gas giants in them close to the sun and nothing else. And actually, the theories of how our solar system was created is quite the anomaly compared to a lot of solar systems that they're seeing out there now. They believe that because Saturn was there, it held Jupiter out. It pulled Jupiter out. And that's why we have gas giants in our mid-solar system rather than right up against the sun. And that allowed the rocky planets to survive. And that's why we now have a life-supporting rocky planet called Earth, which is in the Goldilocks zone, which we evolved and now live on. Yeah, but
they're like the shield of the system.
Yeah, see, they reckon that Jupiter was sweeping in, and that's what destroyed the planet, which is now the asteroid field. But then Saturn pulled it back out.
Yeah.
And therefore, rather than having the usual situation of all the rocky planets destroyed and absorbed and just having a few gas giants, like Jupiter and Saturn could have ended up orbiting close to our star, and that was it. There's no rocky planets. There's no Earth. There's no water. There's no Goldilocks. There's no nothing. We could just not have happened. There's also the instance of they believe that Earth was struck by another large planetoid early in its existence called Theia. And Earth was actually developing a very harsh atmosphere at the time. And that collision wiped that atmosphere off and allowed our current atmosphere to form. And if it hadn't happened, we wouldn't be here either. So there's all these things that happened which were a bit unusual, which allowed us to actually exist in the first place. So
I have a question for you, scientists.
Yeah.
In regards to that, I actually saw that it does make sense because dinosaurs have such thick bone mass and high and big bodies that with the current density of oxygen, they would literally asphyxiate.
Yeah.
So it figures that yeah, it makes a lot of sense that it was something that actually kind of took the whole Earth through a process that make thinner the whole oxygen density as it is today.
Well, all these sorts of gases, the concentrations rise and fall depending on what's happening on the planet at the time. If the original atmosphere of Earth had remained, no life would have formed because it was too caustic. It wouldn't have allowed life to form. But because Theia hit the Earth and stripped the old atmosphere off, it then allowed the new atmosphere to form, which was far more capable of supporting life. And that's what brought us around. But most of the oxygen that has been created on Earth for us to breathe has been created by plankton floating in the surface of the ocean. So having big bodies of water is very important for producing enough oxygen to then have an oxygenated atmosphere large enough for large creatures that require a lot of oxygen to form. And the Earth's levels of oxygen, as far as I understand it, have risen and fallen over geological spans of time. So you get periods where there wasn't a lot of oxygen and there was only very small creatures able to survive. And then you have periods where there was much more oxygen, and that enabled much larger creatures to evolve to the point where you had centipedes that were like 6 washing machines long. So
did they make a movie about that? And they were like humans and a human centipede. And...
no, that's completely different. Well, the thing about insects is that they don't really have a circulatory system, so oxygen goes in through pores along their bodies, and then just transmits through osmosis through their body. So it doesn't have a huge amount of penetration. So with
what you said?
With penetration. So with the I know where you're going with it, but I'm using it in the general sense. So
shut up with the speaker though.
The size of the insects that can develop in the world at the moment, it's the size limitation is based purely on the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere at the moment, which is 19% odd. So they believe we've had periods on Earth where there's been 30 to 40% oxygen, which has enabled much larger creatures to evolve. But of course, when you have that amount of oxygen, you get massive forest fires because there's so much oxygen that, you get and then everything goes up. So, there's pros and cons to these sorts of things. And all of these, mass circulatory systems of atmosphere and everything, they all sort of level themselves out. And we've actually been really lucky in the last 11,000 years that the Earth's environment has been quite stable comparatively compared to other time periods. So the fact that human civilization here at all is got a lot to do with the Earth's environment being quite stable for the last 11,000 years. But of course, with what we're doing to the planet at the moment, with climate change and all that sort of thing, it's not going to stay stable for much longer. We're going to see a lot more storms.
I always said the Earth doesn't care. Earth will be perfectly fine once we destroyed, because all we're doing is destroying the capacity of this planet to allowing us to live here.
I mean, that makes sense. There have been global extinction events where up to like 96% of all life has been wiped out. It's not all gone, but a lot of it's gone, and then it's had to evolve and repopulate and grow back up as the environment stabilized again. So the Earth will remain. It'll be polluted and it'll be all stuffed up for organisms like us, but other organisms, even extremophiles, will survive, and then eventually they will evolve into something else, and we'll be gone because we fucked it up. And you're right. The Earth does not care. The Earth will still be here.
It's fine. It's well fine. And that brings another thought, bringing back to closer to the science behind this movie when they were talking about binary suns. Something that I realized is that the physics of having a single sun in a solar system, it's complex enough for having generated life, and maybe that is the reason why we are so unique so far in our, and I'll speak to that in just in a few minutes. My contrary thought on that is the fact that binary systems are so they standard out there. And just imagining the complexity of having a single sun, now adding a second sun, it's hard in my head to comprehend how life would be able to evolve. Of course, there are always exceptions, but it just seems complex enough for a single sun to now have dual suns. And why I was going to say about the fact that why we feel so unique, or what we are so far so unique. It was a conversation I was having, I think, with Captain Chaos a couple of days before, where I was saying, okay, I was just thinking about this. When you look into the stars, right? You're looking at light that has traveled millions, in some cases, millions and millions of years through space, and now it just arrived here for us to be able to look at. So for all we know, what we are looking at right now no longer exists. And this is something that most people can comprehend, most people can understand, but I never really seen someone look at the other weight of that coin. The other side of that coin is that, let's say, for example, we have a technologically advanced society somewhere else in the galaxy. we are that far enough that by the time they get to see our radio communications, our attempt to communicate, like, SETI and all this stuff, maybe by the time they get to hear that, to see that, or even to see our light, we could have been long gone.
Yep. The distances are immense. It takes 8 minutes for the light from the sun to get to Earth. And, that's our star. So if the sun suddenly went out right now, you wouldn't know for 8 minutes. And that's just in our solar system. And the distances between us and any other solar system is immense. So you're absolutely right. We could get a signal from space from a culture that's been dead millions of years. And the signal's just been traveling and traveling and traveling. The other issue about why we've never met any aliens is because one of the first TV broadcasts that ever went out past that was strong enough to go out past our magnetosphere and get out into space was the 1934, I think it was, Olympics in Nazi Germany. With Hitler opening the Olympics. And, if somebody was to see that, they might go, nope, sorry, not going there. So we could have sealed ourselves off just by having that as one of our first broadcasts to go out.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just thinking about that the other day. It's like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And I don't think I hear people talking about the other side of the coin where, what about our transmissions? What about our light going into space? So, okay. So I want to thank everybody that was involved in this episode. Unfortunately, Ro from Scarif have to leave early. If you haven't checked that podcast, please do. I am actually a fan, and I enjoyed every episode. So I invite everybody to go and download their episode and listen to it. And Brandon, sorry to see Drew leave early, but I hope that we can have you guys back for other episodes. I really enjoy your guys' podcast. It's kind of like something similar to what I'm doing on the Star Trek side with my wife, where I'm taking my wife in order, in timeline order, through the Star Wars. So if you guys are familiar with, if you are a fan of Star Wars, and I invite you guys to download Across the Star podcast. They're taking a unique view of the entire IP in a specific order. And I'll let you talk a little bit about what you guys do if you like. But I invite everybody to go ahead and download their episodes. We appear in 2 of them. It was a lot of fun, and I'm actually a fan. Brandon?
Yeah, thanks for having us. And I think this is our second time now being on here. It's always a blast, and hopefully we can have you guys back again sometime soon, because we got plenty of Star Wars to still get through. Like I said earlier, we watch everything Star Wars in timeline order that it happens in the Star Wars universe. So we started with episode 1, episode 2, and now we're going through the Clone Wars, and we just got into the main body of season 2, because if you didn't know, Clone Wars does not happen in broadcast order. The broadcast order of Clone Wars is nowhere close to timeline order. It's a anthology, I think is the word that they use. So you have to jump all over, like season 1, 2, 3, back to 1, back to 2 again. But yeah, so we're in the main body of 2 now. So we got about 5 seasons to go before we hit a movie again. But yeah, we just talk about what we see, talk about our beefs with it, our likes, our dislikes. I rant about the fact that space physics don't make sense in Star Wars. And you don't have to land in one spot on a planet because it's space, and you can just go to the other side of the planet. But anyways,
right there with you.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fun time. You can find us most podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, all those. We're on YouTube doing playthroughs. Yeah, find us, give us a like, give us a subscribe, whatever positive reinforcement the platform that you're viewing us on provides. We appreciate that.
Awesome.
And by the way, if you guys want to invite us for any future episodes besides Sunday and Saturday, and for Robert, Tuesdays and Wednesday and Mondays, feel free to just give us a holler.
Awesome. I'll let Drew know. He handles all the booking. I'm just there for the good looks.
You're just like me on this show, man.
Yeah, my job is to be Morgan Freeman, hit the soundboard, and wave the lightsaber around. That's what I'm here for.
Nice. Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for being one more week with us. We really appreciate you guys being with us. We really appreciate the engagement. Just remember, you can reach out to us on Twitter. You can join us on, and I got interrupted by something mentioned, something posted on the video. But I am not going to say a thing because I want you guys to go to our YouTube channel and watch what happens, and then come back to us and let me know if you enjoyed it. So thank you so much. We join us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share. Especially if you know someone who loves sci-fi as much as we do share and let us know what you guys think about the episodes that we do or any episodes that we haven't done yet that you want us to cover. So join us in Discord. We are having great conversations among the very few watch parties that we have, which are always a blast. And then help us out in Patreon or buy us a coffee. We are going to start putting our pre-show on it. So the first pre-show that is going to be in our Patreon channel will be this one.
You can enjoy how I could not listen, everybody.
So yeah, that's going to be a mixed bag. But hope you guys enjoy that. But the cool thing is that I'm going to be posting it right away. So you're going to have a few weeks to learn what the episode is going to be about prior to me actually giving you the spoilers or the little hints that I normally give on every episode. So help us out in that. And again, thank you so much for being on our show. We really appreciate not only you being here, listening to us or watching us on YouTube, but also the engagement is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, and see you on the next episode.
Next time.
Hasta la vista.